Welcome to the Spheres of Spirit with Nancy Myers, aka the Lady of the Light. Nancy will discuss the everyday magic and wisdom of spirit which surrounds each of us, waiting to be discovered. She will share some of her remarkable orb photos, proving that our angels, guides, loved ones in spirit, and even pets surround us and guide us in our physical world. During this episode, Nancy will discuss one of the many spheres or aspects of spirit available to us based on her orb photography. She will also share a special channeled message from her guide, Leonini, and do an oracle card reading to help guide you along your personal spiritual adventure. And now, here is your host, orb photographer, author, medium, and speaker, Nancy Myers.
Hi, welcome to the Spheres of Spirit. I am Nancy Myers. I want to thank you for spending time with me today. So as many of you know by now, I am an orb photographer. And the name of the show, The Spheres of Spirit, is kind of a double meaning because it does talk about the orbs, but it also talks about all the other aspects, or my show talks about all the other aspects of the divine, the spiritual paths, the communications. And so when I first started getting orbs, people ask me, well, what are orbs and why are they here? Well, some of the orbs after a while started appearing and they had a pattern inside and it was very consistent. And in fact, that's how I knew if it was a real orb or if it was just a spot or dust or water, because those will produce circles in your pictures, but the ones with the pattern, those to me were the orbs. So that's what I'm going to try and explain today, is what are those patterns? And this is just one explanation. Again, I do not ever box spirit in, but this is what they have told me thus far. So in the beginning, and let's talk about the beginning, God created the world. How? Well, it says, the Bible says, in the beginning was the Word. The Word. He spoke. It was sound. So there's an ancient Hindu text that dates back to 700 BC. It's called the Upanishads, and I know I'm destroying that name. And it says that the divine, all-encompassing consciousness first manifested as the sound Om, O-M, the vibration of the Supreme. Some people say it's pronounced A-U-M, and some say O-M. But anyway, the word or description of Om goes back to the ancient Vedas, another Hindu scripture, which was written in Sanskrit, dating way back 3,500 years ago. So that sound of Om being recognized as a divine vibration, a divine sound, has been around for a very long time. So if we could get the first slide up, Chris. So this isn't obviously an orb, but it sets the tone for what we're going to talk about today. And it says the universe doesn't speak English. It speaks frequency. And if you can notice on that illustration there of that circle, and it has all the colors of the rainbow. And in my previous podcasts, I talk about how the orbs appear in different colors according to their frequency. So let's talk about this language. Thank you, Chris. So everything around us pulsates, vibrates, everything in this world, even if you think a rock doesn't or a handful of dirt doesn't, it does. There is some vibration to everything. Nothing in our world is standing still. And the sound of Om, when chanted, vibrates at the frequency of 432 hertz. Now, hertz is the rate of vibration. So this same vibrational frequency is found throughout everything in nature. Remember 432 hertz. It's an important number. As such, Om is the basic sound of the universe. So by chanting it, we are symbolically and physically acknowledging our connection to nature and all other living things, even to the universe itself. But what's so special about 432 hertz? Well, according to some theorists, it's the frequency, like I said, at which the universe itself vibrates. So to understand what this means, the 432, we need to first learn about what is called the Schumann resonance. Now, bear with me. We're going to get to these patterns in the orbs, but I have to explain all this first. The Schumann resonance will explain this importance because a German physicist named Winfried Otto Schumann documented this frequency way back in 1952. He understood that global electromagnetic resonances exist within the cavity between the Earth's surface and the inner edge of the ionosphere. He determined that the frequency of these electromagnetic waves was very low, ranging from 7.83 hertz to 8 hertz. So the Earth used to vibrate more at 7.8, but in recent times it has moved up now closer to 8. And there's several theories as to why that is. Population, things moving, things building, cars, whatever it is, but the resonance has inched up just a little bit closer to 8 hertz. So this frequency range, 8 hertz, is referred to as the Earth's heartbeat, or the Earth's vibration, as we talked about. So how does the 432 hertz, which is again the sound of Om, relate to the 8 hertz, which is the sound of the Earth's heartbeat? Well, musically speaking, they resonate with each other. They harmonize with one another. So it's kind of like, to explain it better, you'll have a wine glass and someone sings a particular note. And when that note matches the harmony or the resonance at which the wine glass naturally vibrates, even though you can't see it, then that can have that effect of shattering it. So it matches. So the frequency of 8 hertz, which is at the top end of what we call the theta brainwave state. I'm going to talk a little bit about brainwaves, and bear with me again. We're going to get to this, but it's so you can understand more about vibration and frequency and how this all relates. So when we are at 8 hertz on our brainwaves, and you've seen people hooked up with electrodes, and when they go into a meditative state, those waves can slow. And that's what we want to get when we're meditating, is slower brain waves. But that is what makes us feel relaxed. But that is when they say our consciousness opens up to intuitive learning and connection. So let me explain a little bit about the brain waves. There's kind of 4, I think, that they talk about. The gamma brain waves, which is greater than 30 hertz. That's when we're really hyped up and just almost, running on overdrive. Then there's beta, which is more what we're in a waking state, and that's between 13 and 30 hertz. The alpha, which then starts moving into a more relaxed state, is between 8 and 12 hertz. And then the theta, which is the 4 to 8 hertz. So you can see as we get slower in our hertz and closer to that 8 hertz is when we match with the heartbeat and the connection of the universe. So, normally I read Leonini's messages and I channel them for the show at the end. But when I sat down, she reminded me that she had already given me information about frequency and vibration. So I'm going to share those along or throughout this presentation. So the first one that I'm going to read, she gave to me back in 2019. And here's what she said. She said, "In your physical world, you are bombarded by sound from all sides. Yours is a loud world. There are good sounds and there are sounds that can have a negative impact on your very being. When the vibration or the sound is in resonance, harmony, to the body's natural frequency, there is harmony. When the vibration is discordant, the body will feel out of tune. It is similar to the graph of a calm human heartbeat that displays a pattern and a rhythm with each beat. However, when the heart is overstimulated, the pattern becomes frenetic, and the heart must be slowed in order to resume its natural rhythm. Listening to soothing sounds or even silence can calm your energy, allowing your body to resume its natural rhythm with the universe. The right sound carries the ability to heal. Allow yourself to receive those healing benefits often." So that was way back in 2019 before I ever knew that I was going to be doing this podcast. But again, what Leonini is saying is slow your brain waves down. You do this through meditation, and she always tells me we need a regular practice of meditation. So this podcast today is just another way of telling you why it's important to meditate. So back to the word Om. The word Om can be found in Hinduism, Buddhism, Sikhism, and Jainism. And Jainism is an ancient Indian religion. I hadn't heard of that one. But the most common and most sacred sound in all of these religions is Om. Isn't that interesting? They have the same sound. So according to these texts, certain I'm sorry, I was reading someone sent me a message. Yes, thank you. They said I did pronounce that correctly. And it is the name of this show, OMTimes Radio. According to these texts, these vibrations can be created by chanting or singing or even vibrations. And the sound can facilitate the communication, again, between man and divine beings. And that is a common belief throughout the world. Every culture uses some kind of sound or music to go into a meditative state, to connect. Some use chanting, some use drumming, some use bells, but everyone recognized the importance of frequency to open the channels. So mantras in Indian religion is saying something over and over and over again. One of the most common, I think, that I found was the word Om. But it's done again in a meditative state, and it's done to invoke something or someone for assistance. So in 1787, there was a German physicist, and he talked about the theory of sound. And what he said was sound and vibrations can actually create patterns and shape. And we have something now that demonstrates that. And it's called cymatics. And what cymatics is, it's where you have a metal plate and it's attached to a gizmo that makes it vibrate. And this flat, square metal plate is sprinkled with sand. And then they turn on the little mechanism that makes it vibrate at certain frequencies, and the sand actually forms into amazing patterns. So it's, according to this physicist, its cymatics then is called a visual representation of sound. So in 1960, a Swiss scientist was experimenting with this technique and tried it with the sound of Om. And when he did, it made several circles with a dot in the middle. So if I can bring up slide 2, please, Chris. So this particular slide is a picture of that cymatics. And what was interesting about this picture is the people that did this, and the credits are on the right there, they recorded Om in the king's chamber of the Great Pyramid of Giza. And then they came back and they played it, and this is what they got. And you can see these concentric circles. What's really interesting, too, is throughout the sacred sites that I've been to all over the world and have learned about, the circle or the circles with the dot in the middle is prevalent everywhere. It is the visual representation of a certain vibration. How did they know that back then? So if we can bring up slide 3. So these are my actual orb pictures. And as you can see, the concentric circles, I just did 4 examples here for you, but I've gotten them over and over and over and over again. Sometimes they're extremely defined, other times they're a little blurry, but most of the time I can tell that there's concentric circles. It's just like the sound of Om on that picture of the cymatics that I gave you. So what are the orbs doing? They're coming in at the frequency or language of the universe. I tell people sometimes that orbs are messengers. So when you look at these pictures, they look two-dimensional because they're flat. But remember, these are orbs. And when sound is viewed as three-dimensional, they form spheres with a dot in the center and circles coming out. You have to trust me on that. I don't have a picture, but that's what science says. So when I first saw these orbs, I thought perhaps there was a code. There was like a binary code, and it still might be. But right now, what they're telling me is we speak the same language. We all vibrate and match to the one word, to the one creator. I think that's remarkable. So you can go to my website if you want to see more, theorbconnection.com, and there's more examples of these there. Thank you, Chris. So concentric circles, as I said, are found in ancient temples all over the world, among other symbols that match each temple all over the world. Civilizations who at that time apparently didn't have any connection or communication with each other. So where did they get this knowledge? We have lost it, but now I believe the universe is saying it is time to remember. And how are they doing that? But in many ways, but at least with me, they are reminding us through the orbs. So when you look at a two-dimensional sound wave, and science can see these, again, it looks like this series of concentric circles that get bigger as they move out. In real life, sound waves, like I said, grow in 3 dimensions and they move in all directions. So the sound of the universe moves to the east, to the south, to the west, to the north, all directions. That vibration goes out, and later I have an amazing picture to show you. But the space in between each one of those circles is called wave fronts, and it is the wavelength. But you know what? It all starts with the circle. So if we can bring up slide number 4. So if you have been following me on this podcast, you know that I did one episode where I talked about sacred geometry. And sacred geometry is the belief that all things are created by a certain pattern, a certain geometric pattern. But according to the information that I read, it all starts with the circle, a single circle, which represents eternity, because there is no beginning, there is no end. And we have learned that the Creator has no beginning and no end. So the circle is almost representative of the Creator, he or she, self. So the circle, let me find my notes here on the circle. I'm got a little bit out of order here. So this circle starts to split. So we start with a single circle and then it splits, and you'll see the 2 there. And that is called the Vesica Pisces, Vesica Pisces. And where it overlaps in the middle, they say, is where heaven and earth meet. It also, in the middle, if you can extend one line, it's the sign of Christianity, which is the fish. And it can also be called, I think it's called the seed of, or the womb of life, or the seed of life. But don't hold me to that one. So the next time we add another circle, it goes to the 3. It has split again. And this is called the egg of life. And the egg of life, if you look closely at the center where those 3 circles overlap, you'll notice a symbol kind of jumps out at you. And if that looks familiar to you, it's because it's used over and over and over again, especially in the Celtic world. And it's the Celtic world call that the tripod of life. I think that's what it is. The tripod of life. And you'll see it represented as a knot in the Celtic world. The other, then it goes and we add 4 circles. Again, it's the circles, it's the overlapping. And this is called, this one is called, then we move into, I don't know what that one's called. Oh, it's called the flower of life. I beg your pardon. It's the beginning of the flower of life. You can see the 4 petals there. And then as the circle splits again, you see that, I think we're all familiar with that pattern of the flower of life with the 6 concentric circles. And there in the middle is the first symbol of the flower of life. And again, this symbol, this flower of life, these circles overlapping each other, the circle, which is represented in sound, is found throughout all the ancient temples and sites all around the world. It is one of the most common symbols, if you will, that is found. So thank you very much, Chris. So a circle with a dot in it is the basis for a lot of the Hindu mandalas. For those of you who are not familiar with a mandala, it's a pattern, and people use it as a focal point when they chant. But according to the information that I have found, the mandala is a representation of a frequency, of a sound, and it's translated into that pattern, just like we saw on a couple slides back with the cymatics. So the Hindus understood this. The Hindus understood the importance of a certain sound to connect with the divine. So do the mandalas, are they a key to know how the universe talks and works? Maybe. I'm going to have to take a break. When I come back, I'm going to tell you a little bit more about mandalas and how we can move into the science of using sound to levitate. I'll be right back.
OMTimes TV. Imagine becoming a super influencer. Reinvent yourself, invest in your brand, and then manifest your success with a robust spheric approach. OMTimes Media and Broadcasting offers a unique and multifaceted way to become the spiritual and conscious influencer you deserve to be by putting your message across our powerful platform with its proven record of integrity and excellence. Through our produced shows, OMTimes offers the opportunity to become a social media TV personality, a radio show host, an OMTimes magazine columnist, and a syndicated podcaster, all in one shot. By live streaming your show on OMTimes TV and broadcasting it across the extensive OMTimes radio and TV networks, you become more than a host. You become an ambassador and a force for positive change. OMTimes. Open yourself to the possibilities.
When I first saw Turtle, my heart was full. Now anything but lonely.
We have this deep connection, this heart connection.
He just wants to be close to you and part of your life.
Every day with Turtle is a perfect day.
When I'm holding her, it makes me feel calmer.
I think everything he does shows how much he loves us.
When we adopt a shelter pet,
we discover
they're a little bit of a lot of things,
but they're all pure love.
And we're back. So we're talking about sound, and is sound the key to understanding the universe? Well, according to the ancient texts, Hindu texts called the Vedas, they talk about what's called a vimana, and these are flying craft, but they don't talk about how they flew. However, archaeologists and scientists have discovered that in some of the statues in India, underneath are actual engravings of the mandalas. They're different according to each craft, but why would they put those on the bottom? Were those invoking the sound to levitate, to allow them to float, to fly? Perhaps. You know, when I was in Peru and I've seen the pyramids, I've stood next to them, I've touched the stones. You see the immensity of these stones, and you go, how could anybody figure out how to pick these up with such precision and put them in place? Well, there's many theories out there that the ancients understood the power of sound, again, the key to the universe. And they would use sound to two things: to lift them and float them to where they needed to be, and some say even reconfigure them so that where these stones were going to be placed fit perfectly. When I was in Peru, there's a a place called Sacsayhuaman, and it's this amazing jagged wall, not jagged, but zigzag wall. And these stones are massive. Some of these stones are 15 feet high, and other stones you look at and they have 6, 8, 10 corners, and they match perfectly to the stone that they're fitting in. But they're all puffed. It's like at some point something changed. Either they were heated or reconfigured and then put in place. And it's not just in Peru. That is everywhere around the world. So science, and I say this over and over again, science is now catching up with spirituality and beliefs. And there is a experiment where the scientists have used sound, but all they've accomplished right now is to lift a ping pong ball. But it's possible. The frequency can lift objects. Imagine what we could do if we could use that key to unlock the knowledge. And I hope it's used for good. There is a site, if you will, in Florida, and it's called the Coral Castle. I don't know if you have heard about it. It's in Florida City, Florida. And this man, his name is Ed Liskalainen. After his wife died, I believe it was, he began to work on what he calls, or what is referred to as, the Coral Castle. He cut huge, somehow, all by himself, huge limestone blocks. They call it the Coral Castle because some of the blocks have coral and shells in them. It's not really coral. Now, this man was only about 100 pounds and 5 feet tall. And somehow he moved these massive blocks all by himself and built this enormous castle. You can go online. If you Google Coral Castle, you'll see pictures of it. Now, he would never let anyone in to see him, how he did this work. But there are stories where some boys peeked over the fence or something, and they saw him float these massive blocks in place. Now, there's some stories where he said he understood magnets, and other stories that say he used sound. Either way, to be able to float these massive blocks with sound is an incredible accomplishment and thing that we once knew how to do. So the Mayans in Mexico said that they witnessed blocks being floated through the air. The Phoenicians in the Near East and the Tibetans. There's even a myth that Merlin, the wizard, floated the stones to create Stonehenge. So that myth, that legend is out there. And I always think that myth, legend always has some basis in truth. So there is now a technology trying to expand on that. So everything has its own vibration or resonation. And if we can understand the sound, we can understand the mystery of the universe. I would like to replace the word mystery with just language. Pythagoras theorized, he was the Greek mathematician, that everything in the universe exists in a constant state of vibration. That was 2,000 years ago. So this vibrational theory has been around for a very long time. So this vibration he refers to is called the code of creation, or the language of God. So if we can get slide 5. So this is a picture of the crop circles. Now, there's a lot of debate whether these are real or not. I know people who have studied these and who have said, yes, many of these are real. Some now, it's become popular to try and make them. But at one time, these were believed to be created by another being. UFOs, advanced civilizations, whatever you want to call it. But I believe that the crop circles were, and most of them are, sacred geometry. And they're communicating with us. So what does this circle, this pattern tell us? It's the same pattern as the orbs. It's the same pattern as the sound of Om. It's the language of the universe. What we need to do then is to say that, to remember that, to reconnect. That is how we talk to the universe. Thank you, Chris. So I want to show you a remarkable picture that just was published. You have all heard, I believe, of the James Webb telescope. It's light years ahead of the Hubble. And it just sent back, well, it's sending back now all these remarkable pictures of the deep universe. And this one, if I can bring that up, Chris. Wow. Wow. This is, it's what they say this is an interaction between two binary stars in the constellation of Cygnus. Cygnus is known as the Swan constellation. Swan, as a totem, says that the swan exudes the essence of angels, imparts divine healing words and energies, and reminds us of the possibility of the transformation into something beautiful. You know, I say divine timing is everything. And for us to be able to see this now at this time, when so many things are being revealed to us, so many things are happening, so many people are looking deeper into what this all means. It's just incredible to me. And you can see a dot in the middle and the concentric circles. Now, in the universe, again, this is flattening it out, but this is sending out the sound waves in a sphere. I just find that remarkable. Thank you, Chris. So, Om, the vibration and language of the universe. I want to break down Uni-verse. Uni, one. Verse, one song, one word. Could that one word, that one sound be Om? Could that patterns of the concentric circles of Om be telling us something? I believe so. Let me read Leonini's message. And this one, again, was in 2019. When you stand next to a speaker that is playing music loudly, you can feel the vibration hit you. It is literally a sensation on your physical being. It is the sound that causes the vibration, which in turn causes the sensation. In your world, and indeed in the universe, everything causes a vibration because everything is a frequency. You may not be able to feel it as well and as easily as when you stand in front of that speaker because your world is denser and moves slower. But your body, your aura, your soul feels the vibrations all around you. Your subconscious is aware even if your consciousness is not. There is a lot to the phrase, something doesn't feel right. When you walk into a room, is it the room that doesn't feel right? No. It is the vibration in the room that surrounds you when you walk into that room. This is your built-in warning system, or it can be a welcome sign. Your abilities, your world, extends far beyond your 5 known and accepted senses. Listen to the music of the universe, one song, through your speaker. It carries with it information and knowledge. If you want the speaker of frequency to play louder, tune yourself through meditation, study, awareness, and acceptance. Wow. So we need to tune ourselves to the speaker of the universe. I just loved that message. I thought it was really incredible. So I want to do a card reading here, and then I have a story to tell you. And I promised to do that at a few episodes ago, and I ran out of time. So the card reading today is going to be from my Uni-verse deck, which is called Starry Beings. So I will pull one card with the intent that this will carry a message for all who are listening. And then I'll move on to my story because it's really kind of amazing. And I have a picture. It's not an orb, but it's about the story. Okay, so the card that I draw, timing is everything. Again, divine timing. It says, shine love on fear. Love will light up the darkness. Boy, do we need this now, right? During these times, there is so much fear. So what can you do in these times? You can open yourself up to the connection of the universe, the vibration of love, which is what I believe Om is, and increase your own light. Don't let the fear that's going around dim you. It's easy to get discouraged, to get caught up in the negative. But remember, we are all truly light beings. So it reminds me of, as I'm talking, they're showing me the movie E.T., and turn up your heart light is what this card wants me to tell you. Turn up your heart light. When we all shine, darkness cannot exist. So it says, love will light up the darkness. It'll actually overcome it. What a beautiful message, and how appropriate for the podcast today. So I have a little story, and I just love it. It won't take too long to tell it. But, when I go out and I take orb pictures every night, I always say a prayer that this work be done from the highest good and for the highest good, and tell me or show me what I need to know today or tonight. I usually leave it up to spirit to show me and to for whatever I capture in my photos. But one day last month, I went out and I said, Spirit, I was a little discouraged. We all have our up days and down days, and sometimes doubt creeps in. And I said, I need a sign. I need a sign so bad tonight. And so I thanked him. And I started to take a picture. And all of a sudden, I hear the screeching of a hawk. And I watched this hawk come closer and closer. It flew almost right at me, screeching the whole time. It circled me 3 times. As it's circling me, I said to Hawk, "Oh, thank you. Could I have a feather, please?" And then after the 3rd circle, it screeched and it flew off. Chris, can I bring up that last picture? I was able to get a picture. I was very lucky because it was moving quite fast and my camera is very slow. This is a nighthawk. And this is one of the circles that was flying. It was just at sunset. And I thanked it. I was overjoyed. Thank you, Chris. Thank you. Thank you. So after I asked Spirit, can I see a sign? And they send me hawk. So I thought, okay, I need to look this up. So I looked it up, a hawk totem. What does hawk totem mean when it literally flies into your life? Here's what I found out. If a hawk totem has flown into your life, you must pay attention. You are about to receive a message from Spirit. What did I ask Spirit right before I took my picture? Could you send me a sign? Please, I need a sign. And that is the sign that I got. But that's not all. A couple days later, I was out in the backyard and pulling some weeds and doing some yard work. And I reached under a flower to grab a weed. And there was a hawk feather, placed very carefully and someplace for only me to find, because I have 4 dogs and they trample everything. So it was very protected. Again, an answer to my prayer. I'm telling you this story because I know I've talked about signs before and how the universe and how spirits and how our angels and how our guides answer us. I've lived here a very long time, many decades, and I have never had a hawk fly out at night around me 3 times screeching and then deposit a feather for me. It just doesn't happen. So I can't explain that away. I have to, and I do, accept that. Spirit knew I needed something really big because I was really in a sad place. And that's what they sent for me. So ask the universe, line up with that universal vibration. If you want to say Om, that's okay. If you want to listen to meditation tapes or songs that are saying Om, that's okay too. And it doesn't have to be every time. There are many, many ways to meditate. But I would, and I do, incorporate that sound in my meditations. When I was in Scotland, it was one of my first overseas trips, as what I call my sacred journey. And I was with an amazing woman. Her name is Ani Williams. And Ani Williams is going to be on my show the end of October. She is a remarkable lady. She's a troubadour, an author, a musician, a writer, a teacher, a sound alchemist. I have taken several classes and I've been on 2 trips with Ani, and she's going to come on the show and talk about things that are just truly remarkable that she has discovered and explored. But anyway, we were sitting around one night and she was doing a presentation. And she told us that there is a text called the Sophia text, and she's going to talk about more of this. But these were, and I want to get this right, they were found in the Nag Hammadi scriptures, which those were a collection of 13 papyrus codices belonging to centuries immediately following the death of Jesus Christ. They were lost writings of the Gnostic. They were found buried near the city of Nag Hammadi in Upper Egypt, and that's why they're called the Nag Hammadi scrolls or scriptures, containing, among other things, a sizable collection of the hidden works of Jesus and his disciples. And there's a codex in there that's called the Holy Book of the Great Invisible Spirit. And it says that the mysteries of truth are made known in symbols and images. And that the holy people, conceived by the Holy Spirit through symbols and images. But anyway, that text, I think it's the third book, is also referred to as the Sophia text. And in that Sophia text, Ani told us that, and I know she can talk much, much better at it than I can, but there is a instruction from Jesus to his disciples. And in that instruction, Jesus told his disciples to make sound to open up the connection between themselves and the divine. What were those sounds? They were vowels. They were vowels. A, E, I, O, U. There is a chant that we did. It's A, E, O, E, O, E, E, O, U, E. And then there was a symbol that we were to draw in the sand as we said it. And I know it's funny and it sounds funny, but if you chant, if you do this, if you say these sounds, these vowels, something does happen. I had quite a vision when I was in Scotland, and I'll talk about it when I have Ani on the show. And more about the Sophia text and why, when, and how it was discovered and how it is now being used and explored. It's really quite fascinating. So now, if you are watching this show as it airs on the 22nd, I am currently in England. I am traveling along a lot of the ley lines, the energy lines along England, visiting a lot of the ancient sites, including Stonehenge and a lot of standing circles and the ancient cathedrals and abbeys. And I'll be taking pictures along the way, meditating. And when I come back, my next podcast, hopefully, I will have some amazing photos and stories to share with you. So that will be the subject of the next podcast. So for now, I just want to thank you for tuning in. I want to thank you for listening. I always ask that these podcasts serve the highest good for the highest good, and above all, that I do no harm. So have a wonderful time until I see you again, month almost. And I hope to see you again. Take care now. Bye-bye.